Why listening is so important to learning English. Listening is often called the foundation of language learning. When we listen, we absorb the rhythm, sounds, and structure of a language in a natural way. This skill is especially essential for mastering English because it helps build familiarity with pronunciation, vocabulary, and conversational patterns. Over time, consistent listening can significantly improve one's fluency and confidence. In this text, we'll explore why listening is so crucial and how it supports various aspects of English learning. Chapter 1: Building Pronunciation and Sound Recognition. Listening is the foundation for developing correct pronunciation in English. Each language has unique sounds, and English includes various vowels and consonant clusters that may not exist in other languages. By listening, learners become familiar with these sounds, helping them mimic pronunciation more accurately. This practice supports clearer communication, as accurate pronunciation makes it easier for others to understand you. Listening is also essential for grasping English intonation and stress patterns. Unlike some languages, English often emphasizes certain syllables and words, adding meaning to sentences. Listening to native speakers allows learners to pick up these nuances, improving their ability to express thoughts naturally and understand others in return. Through listening, learners gain exposure to different accents and dialects. English is a global language, and listening prepares learners to understand varied accents from around the world. This adaptability and comprehension is especially valuable for those who plan to travel, work, or interact in international settings. Hearing English regularly also reinforces mental associations with words and sounds. Repetition through listening solidifies vocabulary in the mind, making it easier to recall words in conversation. This process helps learners become more confident in their speaking and comprehension abilities. Finally, listening helps with spelling and reading. When learners hear words repeatedly, they naturally associate sounds with spelling patterns. This strengthens reading skills, as they can better recognize words and pronounce them accurately when reading aloud. Chapter 2: Expanding Vocabulary Knowledge. Listening is a powerful tool for vocabulary building. Each time a learner listens to English conversations, they are exposed to new words and phrases in different contexts. This exposure is crucial for expanding vocabulary naturally and understanding the nuances of word usage in real situations. Context is one of the most valuable benefits of listening. When learners hear new words in context, they can often guess the meaning based on surrounding words and tone. This contextual learning is more effective than memorizing lists, as it helps learners understand when and how to use new vocabulary accurately. Moreover, listening exposes learners to informal expressions, slang, and idioms that may not appear in textbooks. Real conversations often include phrases that native speakers use casually, which are valuable for understanding day-to-day communication. Learning these expressions helps learners sound more natural when speaking. Listening also aids with verb tense recognition and grammatical structure. As learners hear sentences, they pick up on patterns and become familiar with sentence structure. This experience helps with both writing and speaking, as learners begin to apply these structures in their own sentences. Finally, Frequent listening builds confidence with vocabulary recall. When learners hear words repeated in different conversations, those words become easier to remember. Over time, this improves fluency, as learners can retrieve vocabulary quickly and use it comfortably in conversation. Chapter 3: Improving Comprehension Skills. Listening regularly enhances comprehension, an essential skill for language mastery. When learners practice listening, they train themselves to process spoken English quickly, picking up on key words and main ideas, which improves their ability to understand both simple and complex conversations. Through listening, learners become accustomed to different speaking speeds. Native speakers may talk fast or use contractions, and listening practice prepares learners for these variations. This skill is crucial in real-life conversations, where speakers may not slow down or simplify their language. Listening also helps learners identify common phrases and filler words like and you know. Recognizing these helps learners focus on the core message as they learn to ignore filler words. This skill is helpful in conversations where natural pauses and informal language are common. In addition, regular listening improves the ability to understand implied meaning and emotions. Tone, pitch, and speed often convey more than words alone. By listening, learners pick up on these cues, helping them interpret the speaker's mood and intention, which is crucial for fully understanding native speakers. Finally, listening exercises improve focus and attention to detail. Listening requires concentration to catch all words and understand nuances. This practice strengthens overall comprehension and helps learners retain information better in both spoken and written formats. Chapter 4: Enhancing Speaking and Confidence. Listening plays a direct role in improving speaking skills. By hearing native speakers, learners absorb pronunciation, sentence structure, and vocabulary, which makes it easier to replicate these elements in their own speech. This process creates a model for learners, who can then practice speaking with greater confidence. Listening helps learners internalize natural conversational flow. In English, sentences often link together smoothly, and practicing with audio materials helps learners adopt these natural rhythms. When they speak, their sentences sound more fluid, making interactions smoother and easier to follow. Through listening, learners also gain confidence in their responses. Familiarity with common phrases and expressions allows them to react more quickly and naturally in conversations, without pausing to search for words. This fluency boosts confidence and reduces anxiety during spoken interactions. Moreover, listening allows learners to hear how others respond in different situations. This exposure helps them understand appropriate ways to respond, ask questions, and show empathy or interest. This skill is especially valuable in professional and social settings, where clear, appropriate communication is key. Finally, consistent listening helps learners overcome the fear of speaking. By listening to English often, they become more comfortable with the language, making them feel more prepared to speak without overthinking. This sense of comfort can transform their approach to speaking English. Chapter 5: Developing Cultural Understanding and Context. Listening helps learners go beyond the language itself and gain cultural insights. Many English expressions and phrases are rooted in cultural references, history, and customs. By listening, learners gain a sense of how native speakers relate language to culture, making their own speech more nuanced and effective. When learners listen to authentic conversations, they hear how people use humor, politeness, and formality. These cultural elements are key for communicating appropriately in different contexts, such as formal events or casual gatherings. This understanding allows learners to adapt their language based on the situation. Moreover, listening exposes learners to cultural variations across English-speaking countries. British, American, Australian, and other forms of English have unique expressions and accents. Understanding these differences can prevent misunderstandings and help learners communicate more effectively with diverse English speakers. Listening also helps with nonverbal communication awareness. Tone, pauses, and emphasis can carry significant meaning, and understanding these subtleties improves overall communication. For instance, a pause might signal that someone is thinking, or an emphasis might indicate importance. Finally, by listening to various sources, like podcasts, news, and music, learners become familiar with current events, trends, and issues relevant to English-speaking communities. This knowledge enhances conversations, helping learners connect with native speakers and engage more meaningfully. Chapter 6: Reinforcing Grammar Through Listening. Listening is an excellent way to reinforce grammar understanding in a natural context. When learners hear English spoken correctly, they pick up on grammatical structures without needing to focus heavily on rules. This passive learning approach helps with sentence formation, as learners subconsciously understand how words should be ordered. Listening also exposes learners to variations in grammar usage based on context. In casual conversations, native speakers may use contractions or simplified structures, while formal situations may call for more complete sentences. By listening to a range of situations, learners gain a feel for the flexibility of English grammar. Additionally, listening helps with understanding verb tenses. By hearing how past, present, and future tenses are used naturally, learners become more comfortable recognizing and using these tenses themselves. This ability makes it easier for them to follow conversations that involve different time frames. Another advantage of listening is learning sentence connectors and transition words. Words like however, although, and therefore are often used to create complex sentences and ideas. Listening regularly allows learners to notice these connectors, helping them add depth to their own sentences. Lastly, listening provides examples of conditional sentences and hypothetical statements, which are common in English. Statements like if I were, or I would, are often used in both casual and formal speech. Hearing these forms in context helps learners understand when and how to use them in their own conversations. Chapter 7: Practicing Real-World Scenarios. Listening practice helps prepare learners for real-life situations they might encounter while using English. By listening to dialogues from movies, podcasts, or conversations, learners can imagine how they would respond in similar scenarios, making them more adaptable and confident in various settings. Through listening, Learners encounter common phrases used in everyday life, such as ordering at a restaurant, asking for directions, or making small talk. By familiarizing themselves with these practical exchanges, they feel more equipped to navigate these situations independently. Listening to real-life scenarios also allows learners to understand social norms and etiquette in English-speaking cultures. For example, phrases like "would you mind" or "could you please" are polite ways to make requests. Recognizing these norms helps learners avoid misunderstandings and appear more polite and respectful. In addition, listening helps learners prepare for unexpected situations. English speakers may sometimes use idioms, humor, or sarcasm, which can be challenging for non-native speakers. By listening to diverse examples, learners become more adaptable and better at picking up context clues. Finally, regular listening improves the ability to respond quickly in conversations. When learners practice by listening to dialogues, they develop faster reaction times, allowing them to keep pace in real-life conversations. This skill is vital for feeling confident and comfortable in everyday interactions. Chapter 8: Strengthening Listening Stamina. Building listening stamina is another benefit of consistent practice. At first, listening to English for extended periods can be mentally tiring, especially when the material is challenging. However, with time, learners develop the ability to concentrate for longer, making it easier to focus on conversations or lectures. Listening stamina is crucial for situations like attending a class, a meeting, or a presentation. These situations require focused listening for extended periods, and practice helps learners retain information without feeling overwhelmed or exhausted. As listening stamina improves, learners can start tackling more advanced materials, such as news broadcasts, academic lectures, and complex discussions. This ability broadens their understanding and exposure to diverse topics, enriching their vocabulary and knowledge. Improving stamina also enhances comprehension in noisy environments. Real-life conversations are not always in quiet, ideal settings. There may be background noise or multiple speakers. By practicing in different listening conditions, learners become more resilient and adaptable in understanding English in any setting. Finally, building listening stamina fosters patience and resilience. As learners get used to listening for longer periods, they develop a positive attitude towards challenging material, which is essential for progressing in English proficiency. Chapter 9: Developing Concentration and Cognitive Skills. Listening practice sharpens concentration and overall cognitive abilities. When learners focus on spoken English, they engage their minds actively, which improves their attention span and mental agility. These skills are transferable and beneficial for other areas of learning as well. Engaging with audio material also enhances the brain's ability to process information quickly. In English, speakers may use different speeds, accents, or slang, and understanding these variations requires quick mental processing. Listening practice strengthens this ability, enabling learners to adapt to any speaker. Listening boosts memory retention, especially when learners regularly practice recalling information they've heard. This mental exercise builds memory strength, which helps learners remember vocabulary, phrases, and grammar structures over time, supporting their overall language mastery. Additionally, listening improves multitasking skills. In conversations, especially group discussions, learners must listen, think, and sometimes respond simultaneously. Through listening practice, learners train themselves to handle this mental juggling, preparing them for dynamic interactions in English. Finally, listening enhances problem-solving skills. By interpreting complex messages, learners become more adept at understanding context, identifying main ideas, and inferring meaning. This skill is crucial for grasping the subtle layers of English conversations, such as humor, tone, or underlying messages. Chapter 10: Building Confidence and Reducing Anxiety. Listening practice plays a critical role in boosting confidence. As learners become more comfortable with English through regular listening, they feel more prepared to speak, write, and interact in the language. This confidence reduces language anxiety, which can be a significant barrier for many learners. Through listening, learners become familiar with how native speakers talk, which demystifies the language. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, they gain an understanding of how conversations flow, making them feel more at ease when it's their turn to speak. Listening also helps overcome the fear of misunderstanding. By improving comprehension skills, learners build trust in their ability to follow and respond accurately in conversations. This trust reduces hesitation, as they no longer fear missing key information. Furthermore, listening encourages a positive mindset toward language learning. When learners see progress in their understanding, they feel motivated to continue practicing, setting higher goals for themselves and feeling accomplished as they reach each one. Lastly, listening provides a sense of connection to the language and its speakers. Hearing real conversations, emotions, and stories creates a bond between the learner and the language, making English feel less foreign and more approachable. This connection strengthens their commitment to learning and using English confidently. Chapter 11: Enhancing Accent and Dialect Awareness. Listening helps learners become accustomed to various English accents and dialects, which is essential given the language's global presence. Different regions, even within the same country, have unique ways of pronouncing words and expressing themselves. Exposure to these accents prepares learners to understand and communicate with diverse English speakers. Learning to recognize different accents through listening also prevents misunderstandings. For instance, British and American English may vary in pronunciation, vocabulary, and spelling. Regular listening practice helps learners identify these differences, making communication smoother and clearer. Listening to various dialects also develops adaptability. When learners familiarize themselves with regional slang and colloquial expressions, they're better equipped to handle conversations with people from different backgrounds. This ability is beneficial in both professional and social settings, where adapting to language variations is key. Moreover, listening to diverse accents builds patience and empathy, as learners appreciate the nuances of how English is spoken worldwide. Understanding these variations helps learners relate better to speakers with different linguistic influences. Finally, Listening to different dialects supports comprehension of global media, like movies, shows, and podcasts from various regions. This familiarity enriches their cultural understanding and connects them to different communities within the English-speaking world. Chapter 12. Improving Nonverbal Understanding. Listening isn't just about words. It's also about interpreting tone, rhythm, and emotion. These nonverbal elements play a significant role in English conversations, helping convey mood, attitude, and intentions. By focusing on these cues, learners can gain a deeper understanding of what speakers truly mean. Tone of voice often reveals a speaker's emotions, whether they're happy, frustrated, or surprised. By listening carefully, learners can detect these emotions and respond appropriately. This skill is vital in personal and professional relationships, where understanding someone's feelings enhances communication. Intonation patterns in English also indicate emphasis. When a speaker stresses certain words, it can change the meaning or importance of a sentence. Listening helps learners recognize this subtlety, enabling them to grasp a speaker's main points and intentions more accurately. Pauses and rhythm also add layers of meaning. For instance, a pause may indicate that someone is thinking, or it might add suspense to a story. Understanding these nonverbal signals makes learners more effective communicators and listeners. Finally, listening to nonverbal cues builds empathy and emotional intelligence. By paying attention to these details, learners not only understand the words, but also connect with the person behind the words, making communication more meaningful and authentic. Chapter 13. Increasing Retention and Recallability. Consistent listening practice enhances memory retention and recall. The brain naturally remembers information better when it's repeatedly heard, making listening an excellent tool for long-term language acquisition. This ability is crucial for learning new vocabulary, phrases, and grammatical structures. Through listening, learners reinforce their vocabulary by hearing words in various contexts. Each time a word appears in a different setting, it strengthens mental connections, making it easier to remember and use the word in the future. This cumulative learning approach is highly effective for vocabulary building. Listening also aids in retaining grammar. When learners repeatedly hear specific structures and sentence patterns, they internalize them without needing to memorize rules explicitly. This internalization makes it easier to apply correct grammar when speaking or writing. Additionally, regular listening builds mental associations between words, sounds, and meanings. These associations strengthen recall, making it easier for learners to retrieve information when needed, especially in conversations where quick responses are required. Finally, listening exercises improve the brain's ability to organize and process language. By regularly engaging with spoken English, learners train their memory and cognitive skills to work together, resulting in faster and more accurate language recall. Chapter 14. Enhancing Analytical Skills. Listening helps learners develop analytical skills as they process information in real time. In conversations, learners often need to analyze the context, tone, and meaning of what's being said. This mental exercise strengthens critical thinking skills, which are beneficial beyond language learning. Analyzing spoken English involves understanding implicit messages, as speakers sometimes communicate ideas indirectly. By listening carefully, learners become skilled at reading between the lines, identifying hidden meanings, and interpreting subtle messages that may not be directly stated. Listening also helps learners notice language patterns. They begin to identify commonly used phrases, sentence structures, and expressions. Recognizing these patterns allows them to predict and understand upcoming parts of conversations more effectively, which is essential for fluent interaction. Through listening, learners enhance their ability to summarize information. When hearing complex material, they practice identifying the main points and key ideas, improving their ability to process and retain information quickly. Lastly, listening encourages mental flexibility, as learners adapt their understanding based on the speaker's words and emotions. This analytical ability supports problem-solving and adaptability, helping learners respond thoughtfully and appropriately in any conversation. Chapter 15. Sustaining motivation and enjoyment. Finally, listening is a way to sustain motivation and enjoyment in learning English. Audio materials like podcasts, music, and movies provide an engaging approach to language practice, making learning feel less like a task and more like a leisure activity. Listening to topics of personal interest, such as hobbies, news, or storytelling, helps learners stay engaged and look forward to each practice session. This excitement keeps motivation high, which is essential for consistent progress in language learning. Engaging with fun and relevant content also makes English feel more accessible and achievable. Instead of focusing solely on technical aspects, learners enjoy the language's cultural and creative elements, which makes their practice feel fulfilling. Through listening, learners can measure their progress over time. As they improve, they notice themselves understanding more, which boosts confidence and pride in their achievements. This positive reinforcement encourages them to keep learning and advancing. Finally, listening connects learners to the larger English-speaking world. It opens doors to new experiences, friendships, and cultural insights, reminding them why they started learning English in the first place. This connection sustains their passion and commitment to mastering the language. Chapter 16. Developing patience and perseverance. Listening to English, especially at first, requires patience. Native speakers may talk quickly, use unfamiliar expressions, or have accents that make comprehension challenging. Through persistent listening, learners build patience as they gradually improve their understanding, learning to stay calm and focused in difficult situations. Patience is essential when dealing with unfamiliar topics or complex conversations. As learners listen regularly, they become more comfortable with not understanding every word, focusing instead on grasping the main idea. This skill is critical in real-life situations, where perfection is less important than effective communication. Listening practice also builds perseverance. Learning a language can be overwhelming, but regular listening allows learners to see small, steady progress, reinforcing their dedication to mastering English. Each step forward encourages them to keep pushing through challenges. Through listening, learners learn to tackle difficult material incrementally, Starting with easier content and moving to complex topics helps them see that consistent effort leads to improvement. This gradual progression builds confidence and resilience, which are valuable traits in any learning journey. Finally, listening helps learners adopt a growth mindset. By practicing regularly, they understand that learning is a continuous process, not an instant achievement. This mindset makes it easier to handle setbacks and remain committed to their language goals. Chapter 17: Enhancing Cross-Cultural Communication. Listening to authentic English material offers insights into the cultural context that shapes language use. Through listening, learners gain a deeper understanding of cultural references, values, and etiquette, which helps them navigate conversations with native speakers more effectively and respectfully. Different cultures may have varying communication styles. Some cultures value directness, while others emphasize politeness and indirectness. By listening to English in diverse contexts, learners become familiar with these cultural nuances, helping them respond appropriately in different social situations. Listening also teaches learners about important social issues, historical events, and current trends in English-speaking communities. This knowledge broadens their perspective and allows them to engage in conversations that go beyond small talk, fostering deeper connections. Understanding humor and irony, which are often culturally specific, is another benefit of listening. These elements are frequently used in English, especially in informal settings. By hearing native speakers, learners pick up on the tone and context, helping them appreciate and even participate in humor more effectively. Finally, listening to English media helps learners develop empathy for other cultures. Through storytelling, news, and documentaries, they hear different viewpoints and experiences, which enhances their ability to communicate respectfully and openly with people from diverse backgrounds. Chapter 18: Building Emotional Intelligence. Listening in a new language requires focusing not just on words, but also on emotions conveyed through tone and expression. Emotional intelligence, or the ability to recognize and manage emotions, is crucial for effective communication. By practicing listening, learners strengthen this skill, making them better communicators overall. Emotionally intelligent listeners pick up on subtle cues, like a change in tone or emphasis, which can indicate how someone is feeling. These signals are often key to understanding the full meaning of a conversation. This awareness helps learners respond with empathy and consideration, improving their relationships in English-speaking environments. Listening helps learners practice patience with themselves and others. Language learning can be frustrating, but by listening actively, they learn to manage their emotions, staying calm and focused even when a conversation is challenging. This emotional resilience is valuable for long-term learning success. Through listening, learners develop an open mindset, which is essential for understanding different perspectives. They become more receptive to new ideas, realizing that there are many ways to express thoughts and feelings. This openness is especially important in diverse, multicultural interactions. Lastly, listening builds confidence in expressing emotions in English. As learners hear how native speakers discuss feelings, they gain the vocabulary, and tone needed to share their own emotions. This ability to communicate authentically enhances their personal and professional relationships. Chapter 19. Encouraging self-reflection and self-awareness. Listening encourages learners to reflect on their progress and understanding of the language. As they listen to different accents, topics, and conversational speeds, they gain insight into their strengths and areas for improvement. This self-awareness helps them set achievable goals and track their growth. Through listening, learners can evaluate their comprehension in real time. If they find certain accents or topics challenging, they know where to focus their efforts. This self-evaluation allows them to approach learning strategically, making the most of their practice time. Listening also helps learners become more aware of their own language use. As they hear fluent speakers, they notice natural phrasing and expression, which they can apply to their own speech. This awareness supports clearer, more authentic communication. Reflection through listening also fosters independence in learning. Instead of relying solely on teachers or textbooks, learners identify resources, such as podcasts, audiobooks, and movies, that align with their interests and goals. This sense of autonomy makes learning more rewarding. Lastly, listening encourages learners to celebrate small successes. By noticing how their comprehension improves over time, they gain confidence and pride in their achievements. This positive reinforcement boosts motivation and reminds them that their hard work is paying off. Chapter 20. Establishing a lifelong learning habit. Listening to English can become a lifelong habit that continues to benefit learners beyond the classroom. By incorporating listening into their daily routines, such as through music, podcasts, or conversations, they create a sustainable, enjoyable way to keep improving. Lifelong listening habits keep language skills fresh. Even after reaching proficiency, regular listening helps maintain fluency and comprehension, especially as language evolves with new slang, idioms, and expressions. This habit ensures that learners stay connected to the language over time. A listening habit also fosters curiosity and a desire for knowledge. English is a gateway to countless resources in various fields, from science to art. By listening regularly, learners can continue expanding their knowledge in areas of personal and professional interest. In addition, lifelong listening strengthens connections with English-speaking communities. Whether through news, social media, or cultural events, regular listening keeps learners informed and engaged, making them feel part of a global conversation. Finally, establishing a lifelong listening habit promotes personal growth. By engaging with new ideas, stories, and perspectives, learners continue to grow as individuals, gaining insight into themselves and the world. This habit transforms language learning from a goal into an enriching, ongoing journey.